Hey everybody, Ed here with the Digital Digest, and today I wanted to share a quick update on my experience with the Samsung Galaxy Note Pro 12.2. This 12.2-inch Android tablet is priced at $749.99 for the 32GB Wi-Fi model that we're looking at here. You can, however, also pick it up in a 64GB capacity for $849.99. Either way, this is one of the most expensive Android tablets ever made, but that doesn't necessarily make it a bad thing, because for customers in the market for an Android tablet that may truly actually be able to replace what they've been carrying around that at least isn't giving them the experience they're looking for, this brand new 12.2-inch Note may be the perfect device. Now, in terms of hardware and software, Samsung has gone out of their way to really put together a solid package here. When it comes to the internals, you're getting pretty much the exact same hardware for the most part, but not completely, as what's found in the current Galaxy Note 10.1 2014 edition, which I covered, and as many of you know, I really do think it is one of the best tablets ever made. So just building upon that foundation is already a very good starting point, and that's what the 12.2-inch model here has in its favor. Beyond that, it has some important enhancements when it comes to USB connectivity. We have a upgrade here in the form of a USB 3.0 port. You can hook up with that 3.0 port pretty much any peripheral that you desire, and it's going to work seamlessly out of the box. And that's what Samsung's entire tablet lineup is all about. When it comes to software that's bundled in here, again, it speaks to a well-polished piece of hardware that's going to perform rather than leave you desiring more. And Samsung knows that it has a lot to live up to if you're going to compare a product like this to a lot of the Ultrabook competition, whether we're talking about Surface Pro 2 or any of the variations of hybrid machines that exist that try to double as tablets as well as PCs and are in this same price point. So Samsung is clearly betting that there are many of you out there who are interested in picking up a tablet rather than a computer, even if they're close in weight. Of course, the Surface Pro has its limitations with regard to screen real estate, 10.6 inches, as opposed to the higher res 12.2-inch display we're looking at here. And when it comes to the actual weight of the device, you're looking at a little over 1.5 pounds here, which you simply will not find anything like this on the market. So operating system aside, this is completely unmatched presently. Samsung knows that, and it's priced accordingly. A higher resolution screen than anything, again, that it's going to be compared to, 2560 by 1600 resolution. And even though that's the same res that even the brand new Samsung Galaxy Tab Pro 8.4 is running, I can tell you it still looks great here. Of course, even more impressive, though, on that 8.4-inch real estate. But the processor, the exact same Exynos experience that you're getting in the Galaxy Note 10.1 2014 edition. So clearly that piece of hardware is far less expensive if you're okay with the 10.1-inch experience. But if you require that extra real estate, if that is really what you feel has been holding you back from getting work done, having enough screen real estate to really multitask and take advantage of the multi-window capability that all of the Galaxy high-end tablets, at least the Note tablets, have always had, and now has even been more developed with the regular Pro line as well, then this is definitely a viable or even perfect option, I think, for a lot of users who respect and realize that their tablet computing demands really do not necessarily require the power of a PC, even though the Windows offerings are, in my opinion, the best compromise out there right now for many users, especially iPad users, which is what Samsung is really betting on. They don't require computers in their lives. And that's what, again, Samsung is hoping for here. So for all of you that are saying, how could Samsung possibly think that they could sell a 12.2-inch tablet that isn't a PC, running, of course, Android here, KitKat version 4.4, the latest, and Samsung not known for their updates, but it's very easy. Take a look at the Apple business model and what Apple's able to put in terms of pricing on tablets that don't afford these sort of specifications or capabilities. Especially, you're not going to find a Wacom digitizer experience, an S Pen like experience with software to match. So Samsung's really invested a lot of time, money, and overall tablet maturation in the business in terms of their experience. and that's all poured into this device, in my opinion. Now, whether or not you actually need this screen real estate is what is finally going to determine whether or not you want to pick this machine up. But in initial tests, I can tell you that this device is top class. The screen is fantastic. That processor I mentioned, optimized to perform even better than my experience with the earlier Galaxy Note 10.1 2014 edition, and that's just a matter of getting a later build of the software, which hopefully they'll bring to the Note 10.1 2014. After all, Samsung owes that to customers who jumped on board with that tablet. It still has most of the same hardware, 3 gigs of RAM to complement the 32 gigs of internal storage here. Again, this is a Wi-Fi only tablet, but best-in-class radios, AC connectivity, and the speeds I see, much like with the Galaxy Note 10.1 2014 edition, as well as the Galaxy Tab Pro line in general, all exceed, if not set the standard, in my opinion, for wireless performance right now in tablets. And a lot of that has to do with what Samsung is trying to represent in this space. So in terms of software, I mean, I've talked a lot about hardware. I didn't mention the Bluetooth 4.0 or I did just cover Wi-Fi, the GPS, 2 megapixel front facing cam, 8 megapixel rear camera, because those are ancillary features in my opinion. This is all about, again, appealing to someone who really just needs a larger screen on that high performance tablet that they would rather have with them than a computer, because at a little over £1.50, you are getting a screen now that matches that computer profile but doesn't have any of the compromise when it comes to weight. So would I have liked to have seen a Snapdragon 800 or a Tegra 4 in here? Yeah, probably, I will say that. But the Exynos 5 dual quad-core chip, so you have an Octa environment here. One quad-core series is essentially dedicated for high performance, the other for low power tasks. Same thing in the Note 10.1 2014 edition, but here again optimized more, just a better fashion because of the updated software. And you can see that in performance, at least that's what I have seen. When it comes to the software, which is what I want to talk a little bit about now, I mentioned that Samsung always tries to not only do hand-holding with their products, but also give you a very full, robust suite of software. Some will view it as bloatware, but I think Samsung's really started to get the formula right here in terms of giving you a balance of quality, usually pay applications out of the box, so that you don't necessarily need to add that much more. It is a complete product. So we've got our typical Google suite, of course, like you'll find on any Android tablet, and of course this great benefit of the extra real estate. We have Chrome. In terms of what web browsing is like here, you've got the Samsung keyboard, which has evolved quite a bit over the years. If you've been following them, then you know. If not, I've just alerted you to that. I'll browse to CNN right there. And performance is really solid. And that's because you do have a top-tier processor, 3 gigs of RAM, which is the highest in the industry, at least as far as mobile OS-based tablets go right now. And again, AC connectivity if you have an AC router, but some best-in-class Wi-Fi performance. And the screen is fantastic. That 2560 by 1600 resolution is just phenomenal. I'm nowhere near my router in terms of the actual Wi-Fi signal, which, by the way, you can see the custom UI, this TouchWiz overlay now referred to as the Magazine UX. Of course, we're not dealing with a stock Android interface, but they have had to modify some things with the KitKat upgrade. In fact, this doesn't look the same as it did under the previous OS, for better and for worse, in my opinion. You can see I've had the auto brightness off, screen brightness cranked all the way up. So for those of you that have been watching the battery life over here, which is now at 80%, keep that in mind. But quick access to GPS and all sorts of system settings and the ability to jump straight into settings. Back to the browsing, you can see we also have the ability to use the S Pen for the capacitive on-screen buttons. Samsung has done away with the menu button. We now just have a multitasking button, which is, in my opinion, a better thing, more of a movement towards standardization, since they still deviate from the norm with having any hardware buttons at all, something most manufacturers have done away with in favor of what Google actually would like the OS to look like. But so Magazine UX is the overlay. There's still definitely a little bit of lag here and there, but I think there are far too many complaints considering the overall versatility of this tablet. And that comes in many more ways than just web browsing like I am now, or watching video on YouTube. It's really all about what I just pulled up, which is the multi-window multitasking that you're capable of doing. You can use the S Pen to do this, or your finger, and essentially you can just drag an app out onto the screen. You can see the hand holding coming up immediately, explaining to you that if you swipe from the right edge of the screen or press and hold the back key to access the multi-window tray, essentially. And you can select to basically have this be hidden. I'm going to reserve that, though, for the full review for anyone who doesn't end up seeing this. And we've got our browser out. We can hover, by the way, if you haven't noticed that. That's not a new feature. But I can swipe, or I thought I could, and bring back out multi-window. And then let's say I wanted to go into my files. I'm now truly multitasking, which this is not a new feature, but we don't have to stop there. See, that time it worked. I can also bring out something like S Finder, which will allow us to actually search all of the content on our tablet. And you can just keep going. I mean, that is the idea here. Oh, apparently I have to deal with the hand holding first. Locked us in there. But, sky's the limit. Pull up S Note. And everything is still running. So this is a multitasking beast, much like the Galaxy Note 10.1 2014 edition before it, but now you have the benefit of this 12.2-inch display. And again, show me what you want to compare it to. I personally own the Sony Duo 13, and it's a phenomenal machine, but far more expensive than something like this, heavier than something like this, although not that much heavier. N-Trig rather than Wacom. I certainly prefer Wacom, no question about it. And Samsung really has done a fine job in putting together just a beautiful piece of software that once upon a time people used to complain about, and now it's really the bragging right of what Samsung has beyond just some of the best hardware in the business. So at this stage, Samsung clearly making a tablet for just about every customer, and that's because they've had some fantastic success in the tablet and handset business. And that comes through in a device like this. We still have the same, as I mentioned, hover capability, as well as the ability to hit the button on the S Pen and bring up our Air command, which gives us quick access to the pen window, S Finder, Screen Write, the Scrapbooker, as well as the Action Memos. These are things I covered in depth for the 2014 edition, the 10.1 Note. Check that out if you're interested. Of course, I could end up doing that for this here, but it would definitely be a redundant thing because they are essentially the same. The key enhancements really here are, again, all about that screen size. They're the USB 3.0, the change on the actual hard buttons on the front of the screen, but everything else seems to perform pretty much the same, but a little bit less of the jerkiness, a little bit less of the hiccups. Also, still perks. I'll probably be doing a video about that separately. You can see the list right there, just because people aren't even aware of Samsung's pitch with this, and they don't do a good enough job, frankly, on marketing these tablets at all. That's one thing Apple still gets right consistently, that for some reason most Android manufacturers just don't connect on. But this is a good attempt, no question about it, clearly making it obvious they want you to be involved in consumption of content, but in the same vein, beyond trying to get you hooked on all those paid services that I just flashed, back to software, I wanted to show the actual pro applications, because they know that anyone who's going to actually pick this up and try to get real work accomplished needs some work-based applications. So you've got WebEx, Remote PC, e-meeting, and most importantly, a real Office replacement, something that Surface Pro, Pro 2, as well as Surface and Surface 2 have in their favor, having Microsoft Office. Well, here we have Handcom Viewer, which is really pretty much one of the best options you could possibly have. It's pretty much having Office on Android. So no limitations anymore when it comes to having a full-fledged Office suite. So that's another big advantage to every tablet, by the way, in the brand new Samsung Galaxy Tab Pro lineup, Note or otherwise. They all now have this office replacement. So Samsung has pretty much figured out or learned from all of the previous tablets, in my opinion, what they need to get right in order to truly satisfy customers at especially price points that for most are just going to seem high when compared to the fruit company. And that shouldn't be the standard for comparison, but unfortunately it is. And that's because, after all, Apple did pioneer the tablet market. And luckily, there is still some competition. Let's hope it stays that way. Parity is always a good thing. So we've got a very solid Office application suite here. In addition to that, remote PC capability out of the box. These are things you generally would have to pay for. Samsung throwing them in, and even throwing them right onto a home screen for you, because they know that if you're buying into this class device, you're not just buying it necessarily for home use. This is about replacing a computer, ultrabook, laptop, notebook, whatever you want to call it, because you finally have recognized you don't necessarily ever utilize your Surface Pro to its actual potential. Again, I'm not saying that this is a superior device to Surface Pro or Pro 2 in any way, or any of the other hybrids that any user may love, but Samsung is betting that there are a lot of you out there that would rather carry around a pound-and-a-half device like this, a little over that gets roughly 10 to 11 hours of battery life. Granted, it does take a really long time to charge. I've already noticed that. I was hoping the USB 3.0 would be a benefit, but unfortunately it's not. The charging time is still pretty bad. We're looking at one of those overnighter devices, but the good side is battery life is a full day of use. So the trade-off is solid, and you can tell because, again, I'm at full brightness, and we're doing pretty well on battery considering we're just about 17 minutes in here on the video. So a lot to like about this tablet. Dropbox, 50 gigs of storage out of the box. Of course, subscription to Business Week, Bloomberg. Samsung has their own application store, but that's pretty much junk as far as I'm concerned. You can see down here quick access to our 2 different pages, and then quick access to the Flipboard integration. Basically, this entire magazine UX, which started with the Galaxy Note 10.1 2014 edition, now just lives on in the brand new Pro line of tabs here, both Note and non-Note ones. And it's basically just Flipboard baked into what used to be TouchWiz, and that's why it's now Magazine UX, is because, after all, that's what Flipboard really is. So you can customize this entire page, get every sort of news feed you personally want, tailor it to your needs. That's the idea. You can see it right here saying, get started, your personal magazine, discover the news you care about. And that applies to every category, and they're just trying to pick some things here. And then basically you'll be prompted to log in to Flipboard through Facebook or through your Flipboard account, and then you'll have access to pretty much all the news you could possibly want. So good integration, and there's definitely less of the jerkiness that I think, again, was overdone by many users on the Galaxy Note 10.1 2014 edition. Hopefully, as I mentioned earlier in this video, we get this KitKat update over to that older model, because it really does perform exceptionally well here on this brand new piece of equipment. You can see yet another part of the magazine UX user interface here, and that's the business productivity end of things. We've got our calendar, which gives you quick access to adding or scheduling appointments. So just by touching here, you're instantly brought up, again, hand holding. Right here you can see all of the options. I believe the swipe down feature should work. No, it did not. Back will. But basically the ability to input whatever sort of event it is, even with actual icons, and set up a reminder, all of these things. So nice features built in. And then quick access to your email. Of course, you'll have to set that up with their email client. But again, Samsung covering all of their bases with this tablet. And then quick access to your Office suite as well, because they know that's something that you're clearly going to be going to on a regular basis. And then up at the top, you've got basically your news feed for business. So this is the business end of the tablet. Even though this can do just about anything you could possibly want, this is where work is getting done, rather than the entertainment wing of the magazine UX, which is what I showed you before, which is more about your personal life. So Samsung really carving out exactly, keeping every element of what you could do with this powerful 12.2-inch Android tablet really well divided. And then when it comes to the application launcher, it looks very similar to what Samsung has employed in the past, a little bit cleaner though, and that's a good thing. But, again, not a lot of bloatware here. Yes, they're tying you into all of those perk services. That's why the New York Times is here. That's why Dropbox, as I mentioned, is here. Watch On, that's free though, which is the cable guide integration with visualizations that will work with the infrared blaster. That's a really great feature. It's been there. It's not a new thing, but certainly good. And you just go through the setup, and it'll basically just take you through all of the questions about what sort of equipment you're using, your cable guide, your location, your provider, so that it can actually simulate your remote control, as well as control all of your devices using proper infrared codes. The Remote PC app, I haven't dabbled with that much, but generally you'd have to pay for the type of quality Remote PC app that has been integrated here. So that is a good thing. S Note, pretty much the same as it has been in the past. I opened it up before, and it just works really well. That's what I can tell you, is that overall, when it comes to whether you want to create a document within the templates that they offer, or just go for a blank document like I'm about to, and then even tie it into your Evernote or Samsung account. Of course, Evernote would be preferable. Even though we still have these animations, the point is that you have your hand holding, as you can see here. I leave this intact for every review for those of you who are new to the channel and seeing this for the first time. And basically, palm rejection is there, so you can go ahead and just start writing. There is a minor amount of latency, but it's really just so smooth, I have to say. And again, whether your palm is on screen or not, it does not make any difference. You really have no problem. And the pressure sensitivity is best in class. You can go from, a thin line to actually going thicker. You can see it right there, and then come back to something really thin. So it's really just a matter of how delicate you are, I would say, with the stylus in order to achieve the stroke that is desired. And then you've got all sorts of customization within the software available for this to select the actual writing instrument you prefer to use. You can see right here, this is nothing new to the Note experience, so that's why I don't really want to waste time on it today. But expect good things in that department, no downgrades when it comes to your Note environment. It's really just about a more full-fledged software experience for what they dub now the Pro experience, and tailoring to a market that expects the best in terms of hardware and also software out of the box. And I think they've done a pretty good job here. Again, this isn't my full review. I haven't spent enough time with this to say, hey, it's worth dropping $750 or $850 on. There's no question the price point is probably my largest reservation about something like this, because you really do have to be in love with the Samsung product, in my opinion, in order to jump on board with something like this for its price. But overall, I like what I see here. The S Pen integration is great. The screen resolution as well as quality, fantastic. I'll speak to build quality in closing here, by the way. No backlight bleed, no dead pixels. Not that I expected it. Samsung tends to be one of the best in the business when it comes to that, so I was glad to see that. The build quality, a little bit suspect on the Galaxy Note 10.1 2014 edition. I did some videos about that. I will say they have changed things. You may have noticed the bezel no longer has the ridges that it once did. It appears to, but they're not exactly the same. They're more finite. I'm not sure what changed in Samsung's factories in Vietnam, which is where this is manufactured, but something did. You may notice the power button right there, a little bit lopsided. Maybe I'm being very critical, but feel free to chime in the comments. I personally think that should be glued on straight. But otherwise, no creak, no separation at the headphone jack, no freak build quality issues. In fact, I really prefer this now true rubber textured backing that we have. On the previous generation, we had something that looked like it was going to be a faux leather or a rubber textured backing that was really just basically a bubbled plastic backing. Now we actually have that rubberized or soft plastic feel that is grippy, textured, and yes, it picks up fingerprints a little bit more than the previous full-on plastic cover, but I'd much rather have some grip capability, a more of a tactile feel than what we had in the Note 10.1 2014 edition. I think the really interesting comparison is this to that model, simply because of the extreme price difference, yet extreme similarity in terms of internal hardware. But of course, some key differences in software that I already pointed out, because this is a Pro rather than just a Note like the 2014 edition. But otherwise, speakers in the same place. No loose speaker grills here. Strange to see the USB port on the side, but that's something you will quickly get used to. Micro SD card slot, nothing really to say there. It's good that we've got storage expansion. Speaker on the other side, of course, alongside the actual 3.5mm headphone jack for audio out. And then that 8-megapixel camera with LED flash. I didn't get into that today, but it's solid. Samsung does a pretty decent job. They're not best in class when it comes to cameras on tablets, but they certainly are better than most, and they should be at this price point. And when it comes to the actual menu system, I'm not in love with this reorganization. That's not something I spoke so much about. With the evolution into KitKat here, I actually preferred what we had with the Note 10.1 2014 edition. But the actual settings that we have here has been cleaned up a little bit. And, it's pretty much the same. There's not a tremendous deviation. All of the controls are fairly similar. And you've got multiple users. And just in terms of about device, for those of you curious, I'll even do a software check right now. I do not think we will have anything, though. And then I will just show you the current version. And no, we are current. So if we just go back to About Device, you can see right there 4.4.2. So overall, again, like the Galaxy Note Pro 12.2, whether or not it's going to be a great seller at $750 or $850, it's really tough to say. It's incredibly expensive. Do I think there's a market for this sort of package? Absolutely. But at the current pricing, I guess it's a bit of a wait and see. And the same to be said for my full review, because until I spend more time with it, I can't yet convincingly say that I could tell anyone right now that they shouldn't save the money and pick up the slightly older but arguably as competent 2014 edition in the 10.1-inch class. Any questions or comments, please feel free to post them. And of course, as usual, please feel free to subscribe. Later.